turn this over to Jamie Reddick. Jay is in our construction, our engineering specifications, engineering construction standards group to talk about specifications and standard drawings.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Brian mentioned, my name is Jamie Reddick, and I will be discussing the changes that were made to the storm-related construction specifications and standard detail drawings. The City of Houston storm-related construction specifications, they were revised based on comments from internal and external users. First, I'm going to start by discussing the revisions that were made to the construction specifications. If you would like to see the red lines for the specifications, they have been posted on the City of Houston Design and Construction Standards website. On there, you'll see a link that is highlighted below in red, showing where the specifications are located. Actually, the red lines are the second link under the construction specifications headline. Please note that the 2018 standard specifications, they will remain online as a reference in case you have a construction project that was bid using those specifications. The link to those can also be found on the same website under the construction specifications header. It is the third link under that header. A summary of some of the major changes that you'll see on those red lines are changes to AASHTO LRFD requirements. Brick manholes are no longer allowed. Standard references were updated, and also there were revision dates that were removed from the construction specifications. So you'll see a lot of changes in the specification red lines. A lot of them were driven by the decision to require compliance with the latest AASHTO LRFD requirements. So previously, the city required compliance with AASHTO HS20 design live loads. We now require an HL93 design live load. And as stated earlier, brick manholes are no longer allowed. As a result, section 02087, brick manholes for storm sewers, was removed from the standard specifications. Along with that, any references throughout the specs was also removed as well. So as we were going through this, we noticed that many standard references were out of date. They have been updated, and if the year was stated, we removed that. It shall be understood that the latest standards available at the time of bid shall be used for design and construction. Some descriptions have also been revised. We noticed that some titles were slightly different, and there may have also been a couple of new additional specification references added. So please check out the red lines to see those differences. Also, as stated earlier, revision dates were removed per document 00700 general conditions. References to standard specifications always refers to the latest edition. So all construction specifications will now have the year of release stated in the header, which you can see in the second image on the slide. Previously, the city listed a date of release in the footer. Going forward, if there's ever an instance where a specification requires revision prior to its official review cycle, we will create a supplemental specification. There were a few other specifications that were revised during this review cycle that were not related to storm. Those all had, well, previously on the site, there were 14 supplemental specifications. All of those supplemental specifications are now officially incorporated into the standard specifications. If you go on the website right now, there's currently one supplemental specification listed, and that's because that one was created after the close of the 2018-2019 review cycle. Just as a reference, you can see on the image on the right is a list of all the supplemental specifications that have now been incorporated into the official standards. The City of Houston storm detail drawings, they were revised also based on comments from internal and external users. So next I'm going to discuss those revisions to the drawings. Also, if you would like to see exactly what was changed on the details, once again, you can check out the City of Houston Design and Construction Standards website. There's a link under the standard drawings where you can see the red lines. Within that PDF, you can see anything that's bubbled in red is something that we changed. Either we striked out text or we added text, or if something is X'd out, obviously that means that detail is no longer available. So some of the changes that you'll see on the detail red lines will be the structural design information has been removed, if there was any. Trench details were revised. Brick structures are no longer allowed. Drawings, they were redrawn on a 22 by 34 inch layout. And a few details are also no longer available. On the new details, any reference to structural design was removed. As mentioned before, you'll see the text has been striked out. As stated, just as a reference, and stated in Chapter 9 of the IDM, Section 2B, the engineer of record is responsible for the design of all structural components. Concrete structures are allowed, given that each is designed, signed, and sealed by a Texas professional engineer. You'll also notice that some details, they're now more aligned with their corresponding ASTM detail. For example, on the left is an ASTM detail which shows the leveling course below the culvert. On the right is an example of the changes that we've made to our details. So this detail here, you can see that now that same leveling course has been added to the detail. And previously, all pipes and boxes, they were installed per ASTM standards. These changes that we've made to our details, they don't change how these items are installed because these directions were already specified in our specifications. We've always referred to the same ASTM standards. So these changes, they were just added to the details just to add additional clarity. Also, as stated previously, brick structures, they're no longer allowed. They were removed primarily due to their lack of water tightness, and they also required frequent maintenance. So any reference to bricks within the details was removed. And please note that on any applicable standards that had brick, we did add a note stating that these details, they will be phased out by the end of 2019. So here shown on the right is an example of the old detail layout. It shows one detail on an 8.5 by 11 inch layout sheet. There are some drawings that are still available on the website in this format, but that's primarily due to them not being a part of this review cycle. Those details, they will be revised as they come up in future review cycles. So the new storm details, they are, there's a link provided on the Design and Standards website as well. If you scroll down a little bit, there you'll see a table, storm sewer details, and there'll be a PDF link to each of those. So when you view those PDFs, you'll notice, as stated previously, the layouts are now on a 22 by 34-inch sheet. So right now the city, currently you can put up to 4 8.5 by 11-inch details on a sheet within a plan set. With the new layout, we're gonna start having one 22 by 34-inch detail. It will be the entire drawing sheet. You'll notice on the sheets that we also modified the title block to include an area for the City of Houston stamp. Other non-related to storm details that are still on the 8.5 by 11 layout, they will continue to be imported up to 4 details per sheet. On the next few slides, I'm just going to show the revised details so you get a better idea of how the new layout looks. So here on this one, you can see we have 4 details on one sheet. The detail number is listed in the top left corner of each detail. We also added this area in the bottom right to allow for the City of Houston stamp. So that's how most of them look. Some of them, based on space and layout, sometimes we have 3 per sheet. Sometimes we have 2 per sheet. It'll just vary. So this is just to show you an example. If you want to see more detail, as stated before, all the PDFs are listed on the website. Okay, as mentioned earlier, we also removed some details. They're no longer available on the site. The first detail that was removed is detail 02632-02, storm sewer type B inlet with grate top. This has been removed and it has been replaced with the text dot PAZD detail. Detail 02632-12, concrete head walls with parallel wings, and detail 02632-13, concrete head walls with flared rings, was removed as well. They were removed because the size of head walls, they vary by project. This was mentioned a little bit earlier during Jill's presentation. They're always on a case-by-case basis based on the project. So the designer shall provide a design in the plan set if it is needed. Detail 0263301 storm sewer precast type H2 inlet and 0263302 storm sewer precast type H2 inlet for curb street pavement was removed due to operations no longer using H2 inlets. And detail 02642-01 storm sewer timber support for corrugated metal pipe, 48-inch diameter outfall and larger, was removed. Going forward, we will refer to the Harris County detail. So that was a brief description of the changes that were made to the specifications and details. If there are any questions about those changes, please ask them in the chat at this time.
انتهى يوم الكلر.
Okay, this is the last call for questions. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Brian for him to answer some of these questions.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that presentation. So we got a number of questions coming in. You know, the brick plug, email coming in, or text question coming in through the chat. Operations at this time hasn't recognized that as a problem. Brick plugs are commonly used, and I think there's a precast way of doing it. There's a number of ways of doing that, but brick tends to be the easiest. So at this time, you know, we're not recognizing that as an issue. If operations does come to us and say, you know what, we are having issues, we will address it at that time. So project-specific details available. You know, the template for that, I think that's a fantastic question. We can talk about that a little bit more and maybe provide that moving forward. You know, starting obviously with the title block, starting with the CAD standards, because a lot of the leader lines, all of the leader lines, annotation, and everything that you see in the standard details, that the new standard details, are all along the lines of Chapter 3. So creating those in those same vein, in that same vein, is definitely the way to start as far as that goes. So to the question, did the city update the approved product, water, storm, sanitary things, the product approval list? You know, the product approval is under review right now. We are still, you know, approving products, but this is something that we're trying to get our hands around in general. All the products that have previously been approved and addressing those and going back. So to answer the question directly, no. The answer to that is no, but we are avidly looking at the product review process and trying to better that. So I did want to address a couple other items that Jamie touched on and that have come up via email to me or various ways into the group here. Cheryl kind of reached back out to you and kind of clarify your last question there, but and any of these questions, feel free to continue to come in and we can, like I said, we are going to post an FAQ Word document for all the ones that we didn't capture here, and then all the ones that we might get for the remaining of the week via the email of Standards Review Committee. I do want to speak to the standard drawings a little bit on the two boxes above the title block that you did see there, kind of tying in a little bit to Joe's statement, and Jamie touched on it, or didn't touch on it, but went into detail about it, that we are requiring, and we have required the PEs to seal these drawings. So there's a box for the firm and the individual stamps that are on the sheets. So some of this comes into discipline control and discipline changes to significant documents that we're over. We have reached out to Texas Board of Professional Engineers talking about the production of standard drawings and what an entity is responsible for, and what do we mean by standard drawings, and what should we house as far as documentation. And so a lot of these are not just boxes that we are just, again, putting on here, but a lot of this resides out of coordination that we've done on how to produce standard drawings. And again, working with the county and seeing how they're producing standard drawings. In Chapter 9, we're speaking to the designer needs to take ownership of the structural design. We did get a lot of commentary, and I did ask, and we didn't have time to vet in our Chapter 9 about the design requirements and the calculations that a designer needs to perform and submit to the city. We do have in the professional service contract now that one of the deliverables is QA, QC calculations for whatever the component is. That is something that we are paying for, that you should already be doing and delivering to us for that sort of documentation. So on top of that, now you're seeing that if you're going to use a manhole, any sort of structure, that you provide the design for that. Now, in the precast world, that means if you read through our specification on precast manholes and things of this nature, you will see that it's covered in the submittal process, right? So the requirement, the deliverable on the contractor side, is to submit shop drawings with a sealed PE seal on it. It's pretty explicit, pretty clean. And so the question comes in cast in place. How do we handle cast in place? Well, that falls back on the designer. Now, if it's a cast in place element, the expectation is that the designer is designing that cast in place element, and there is direction to the contractor on how to build that and construct that. There's differences, and when you're doing that, then that design needs to be sealed. So when we're taking away the design component of the standard details, that's a little bit of a shift in some areas. So I do really want to call attention to that, because that may affect how you approach the conversations going into phase 2 with the city, and how you approach construction. So just want to be sort of explicitly clear on that element. I also want to call attention to that we do have a current project underway in talking to our storm operations folks on creating new standard drawings in addition to the ones that are provided. Storm has certain situations they've been dealing with and would really want clarification on standard details on how a design community and a contracting community should address those issues. So that's underway. So that's kind of in conjunction with the statement that you see about the brick manhole phasing out. We are trying to replace and add details on the storm water relations side. So one part of that, just kind of touch on that. Jamie did speak to the 700. We at the table of contents conversation and the specification conversation, this is not different than any other entity that performs construction work, municipal or highway related. At the time, 700 explicitly says at the time of bid, the specifications at the time of bid are applicable. So again, just to kind of reiterate what Jamie has said, the 2018 specifications are still up there. So if you're going through claim resolution, you're going through change orders, you have a dispute about something that was bid then, that is a resource for you. Go back and look at your bid date. You refer to that document. Moving forward, if you bid in 2019 under those specifications, that's what you use. So the revision dates have gone away. No longer does an internal PM have to track down and make sure you're using the right division and the wording is right and people are doing all this kind of stuff right correctly. That's kind of a little maddening, honestly. We put out a specification. It is there. When it bids, that's the ones that's applicable. We are doing our best to make sure that you're aware of any changes. The contractor's aware of any changes. There's no secrets here. That's all posted and public and getting that information out to everybody. I do want to touch on the supplemental specifications. There is going to be a process where supplemental specifications are going to be identified either as a long-term use or a one-time use. The county actually at the bottom right, Joe Zapata there has put at the bottom of theirs explicitly saying, hey, this is one-time use supplemental specification to use to supplement an existing specification under a current project. So there is that coordination on our end that will happen as you approach us and talk through some of these items, and just kind of to point to that. If you have supplements that exist out there that need to be incorporated, please send them our way. We also will be starting the conversation on guide specifications, the terminology of guide specifications, what the city uses it for versus what the industry knows a guide specification for, and how to kind of really approach those. Those are kind of an interesting animal on their own. So we will, as we grow and continue to dive into these, we will be addressing that. Kind of the dovetail into next year, we will have start the conversation for the next review cycle earlier. We do understand that there is a lot of conversation, and this cannot be isolated into a couple-month period, and the conversation is bigger. I'm also over the traffic group here. Chapter 10 specifically affects what we see every day, and so there are known components of that we are going to start the conversation as soon as we wrap up. The FAQs here and the things like that here, we will sort of transition to and email out that the open comment period is out there. So again, we'll be posting FAQ, we'll be working, that would be our current activity. We will try to post the webinar. We're going to see how big this file is and try to post that. I think that touches on everything. I do appreciate everybody that's signed in today, that's listening today. We do have a distribution list. Please, if you know folks that need to be on it, we are trying to get away from having to relay information from staff meeting to staff meeting to staff meeting to get in, and from PM to consultant after that, to just get in front of who needs to see it. It's not an issue adding people to a distribution list. It helps communicate and coordinate. So if you know folks that want to be on that distribution list, send us an email, easily drop them into that distribution list. It goes out, and the more people get access to this information quickly, and we get a good design and product out of that. You will also notice that will come along is a survey on this webinar. This is the first one. It's the first one that OCE certainly has done. It may be one of the first ones that collectively as a city we have done, certainly associated with the IDM. So we will be doing this every year. That is the intent. So we would like feedback on what you would like to see, length of, things like this. So be looking for that survey. Appreciate any comments that you guys might give us. We just want to get better as we move forward. With that said, I appreciate y'all's time. I appreciate everybody's input. And like I said, a lot of hard work went into where we are now, and we will promise to continue to get better. So thank you for your time, and everybody have a good day. Thank you.